Hey, today we're talking with Nitin Gupta, who is CEO of Flytbase, and we're going to be doing a deeper dive into the very well received keynote session, how AI, drones, and robots are taking over energy operations, which he delivered recently at the Energy Drone and Robotics Summit this past June in Houston. It was clear from Nitin's presentation that Flytbase is at the forefront of integrating AI and robotics, especially drones, into industrial operations with a strong focus on critical infrastructure like oil and gas. His emphasis on the moment of convergence and the transformative power of AI, especially generative AI, combined with autonomous systems and domain expertise, provided a solid foundation for insights, and the audience was keen to learn more. So let's get started a talk with a focus on practical implementation, challenges, and future vision. Welcome to Nitin.
Thank you so much, Sean. It's a great opportunity. Really enjoyed the keynote, the EDR event. So thanks again for having me and look forward to our conversations today.
Fantastic. Well, let's dive right back in then and talk a little bit more about Flytbase's approach to integrating AI and robotics in industrial settings. During the session, you mentioned that most of your deployments have accelerated in the last 2 years. What specific technological advancements or shifts in industry mindset do you think may have been the most significant drivers of this increased adoption, particularly for critical infrastructure?
Right. So, Sean, let me tell you a little bit about Flytbase. So, Flytbase has been working on aerial robotics for last many years. We are the industry leaders when it comes to automated drones and robotic systems. Now, recently, we got started with building everything in an AI native platform so that we can help our customers not just with drones deployments and flights, but also with processing of the data and getting real business insights using all this technology. So that is where we have seen amazing shifts happen in last couple of years, because earlier the hardware itself was not very reliable in many cases. So deploying a drone used to be quite time consuming. There were a lot of like hardware issues and all kinds of systems coming together for the first time. However, now in last few years, these systems have become really reliable, really sophisticated, very reliable systems that work every time. So the reliability of this hardware has really changed the game in last few years. The second aspect is the AI, and the technology that was available till a few years ago was only able to help us collect the data and use basic algorithms for some photogrammetry or some like stitching images together and things like that. However, the kind of systems that have recently become available, it's transformative. It's really amazing. It's almost magical how well AI systems can now understand these images and tell us so much more about our large sites. So doing inspections or understanding security and understanding compliance issues, all those things have become very human-like. So you can have very detailed, nuanced understanding of all kinds of assets, all kinds of situations, which was just impossible even 6 months ago. So it's the convergence of all this hardware refinements and these amazing capabilities in software that is driving a lot of interest, and we see all these industries completely getting transformed in next few years because of all this coming together.
Fantastic. That really helps, I think, set what the technology is really able to do today, which is almost magical. It's amazing. Another area that we wanted to get into was, one of the things that was discussed during the keynote was around somewhat that the window is starting to close, for the early adopter phase, at least. And, what advice would you give to energy companies that are still in the early stages of exploring AI and robotics integration? So, like, what are the first steps that they should be taking to maximize the benefits and try to avoid being left behind to that fast follower crowd?
Right. So again, the technology is moving so fast right now that it is very important to engage. First step is to have conversations, to start these discussions. And what is becoming very, very important is for these domain experts, these energy companies, to start having these conversations with AI experts, so that we can work together in order to figure out how to best leverage this technology for real world applications. Because AI experts are really good at software, they're really good at understanding the capabilities of AI and using AI, but they don't know so much about the domain. They don't know about the real world challenges that we have in the field. And that is where energy companies and AI experts both need to work together in order to unlock all these capabilities, in order to make it actually useful in the real world. The interesting thing is, if you really follow what's going on in AI, it is no longer a question of if, it's just a question of when. A lot of these capabilities are already very mature. I mean, a lot is left to be done. Of course, AI is moving at warp speed. It's like really unfolding very, very fast. But whatever is already available is so powerful. It can already help us implement so many things that were just not possible earlier. So the sooner we start these conversations, the better we will be equipped to start leveraging this technology and continue to remain at the front as more and more capabilities continue to become available.
Yeah, some great points there. So really the idea of having an open mind to the possibilities, looking at your problems with AI expertise as to what you might be able to do are really some of the key things to really get going on something like this and start running at least pilot projects.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and that is what we are observing, Sean. That in last 6 months, so many of these large companies, which otherwise used to take a long time in order to make decisions, in order to move, now everyone is realizing that things are moving so fast, and there is enormous ROI that can be realized with technology that is already available. So it's no longer incremental. It is no longer 10% improvement, 20% improvement. We are talking about several like orders of magnitude improvement. It's like 10x improvement. It's massive. It's not incremental, right? And that is why there is that urgency, because the sooner you adopt it, sooner you can be far ahead of the industry, of your other competitors. And like whatever else you are doing, maybe you will be able to realize 10-20% improvement, but with adoption of AI, it can be massive. And that is why it is not something that you can delay. It has to start ASAP.
It sounds like the scale of change is quite impressive. You mentioned also during your presentation about upwards of an $800 million annual savings was mentioned around an oil and gas company. You're talking about really a huge scale change, not incremental change, but scale change. What are some of the KPIs or metrics that your clients typically are using to measure the ROI of working with Flytbase deployments and AI enablement, of course?
Right. So let me clarify. I had mentioned about a case study that was published in Plant Services magazine, and they had mentioned that a single failure resulted in savings of prediction of a single failure prevented an expense of almost 10 million, and which has a potential impact of 800 million across their offshore facilities. But beyond cost savings, what we are now measuring or trying to get from all these advanced systems is things like, can you now predict failures before they happen? Can you respond to emergencies more effectively? Or can you free your workforce from dangerous jobs or put them on higher value work? And can your systems continuously learn and optimize themselves? So these are capabilities that, again, are just magical, because many of these things were always discussed, but they were just not, like, technology was not there to really deliver. However, now those systems are possible to be built and deployed. And this can give a lasting competitive advantage to companies who move fast.
Got it. And thank you for that clarification. And that is, I think, right at the very forefront, the first one you mentioned around predictive maintenance, the exponential change that can make with being able to understand that process when you consider the costs, which are so high. And then the safety aspects obviously are always going to be a big KPI, I think, for the energy asset owners.
Yes.
Great.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, flipping a little bit more to the technology side of it, I guess, is really looking at, Flytbase emphasizes a hardware agnostic platform. How do you ensure kind of the seamless integration and optimal performance across such a wide array of ever-changing drones, robotic systems, especially as those new hardware innovations are emerging so rapidly? You don't have to give us, of course, any secret sauce, but how do you manage all of those different assets that are so different?
Right. So there are multiple aspects to this. A lot of industry is getting standardized. So there are standardized APIs that are used by many of these robotic systems, both for inputs and outputs. So you can send commands to these systems and you can get data from these systems in return. So a lot of those APIs are getting standardized, both in open source as well as some of the major players in the robotic industry. At the same time, now with AI, there are also things like MCP, the Model Context Protocol, and things like that. Where again it becomes easier to speak to variety of systems using these standard protocols. So all that allows us to interface with a large variety of systems in a very, very systematic and efficient manner. We also work with integration partners in many locations. So we have integration partners spread in 40 countries today. So we are working in the US, in Europe. We have integration partners in Middle East, in Southeast Asia. And these integration partners also bring in that expertise of helping us with these deployments and integration with different kinds of hardware.
Excellent. That totally makes sense. So along those lines, one of the things that obviously is key to any industry, particularly obviously energy assets and critical infrastructure, is around cybersecurity, data security. So kind of extrapolating on that, you're able to interact with all different types of technology along different types of robots and drone systems. What is kind of top of mind when you're trying to handle that edge processing, open source models, et cetera? What are some of the measures or certifications that y'all use to try to control and help ensure that the data stays secure?
Right. So that is a very, very important question and concern that many of our customers have. And not just with using cloud-based software, but especially when you are using these AI models and things like that, because customers are very, very concerned that their enterprise data should not go and feed into these models that should not be used for purposes outside of their enterprise applications. So that is where we have built a lot of different kinds of systems that help us address those concerns. So one is, whenever we are using our cloud applications, of course, they are compliant with SOC 2, Type 2, and GDPR and ISO 27001. So those are some of the standard kind of certifications and standards that we comply with. However, when it comes to agentic platforms or AI-based systems, for many of our enterprise customers, we do on-premise deployment. So these are completely air-gapped. These are not even exposed to the external network. So we have firewalls in place so that all their data remains within their premises. And now the good thing is, in last few months, there are very high quality open source models available with open weights, which can be fine-tuned for an enterprise application. So we work with our customers, fine-tune those models for their enterprise data, and then deploy these models completely on their servers, which are located inside their premises. So none of their data ever leaves their premises. Everything is fully contained. And again, the good part is that a lot of open source technology has recently become available that can be fine-tuned and then deployed completely in private for these customers.
Excellent. And that makes sense to have that at two different levels. So you're controlling what is, possibly being utilized within the cloud, off-premise, and then the on-premise to ensure that the data and the different assets are not being showcased to a larger LLM. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. So again, there are certain things, certain dashboards that you might want to host in the cloud because you have your offices set in different locations, and for some reason, some of these things you might want to keep in the cloud, but those clouds are again secure with SOC 2, all those kind of certifications. But when you are using LLMs, when you are using VLMs or any kind of AI models, those are hosted within your premises so that you are not uploading any image data or any enterprise enterprise data outside of your premises.
Ah, great. So let's jump off the technology train and we'll go actually to do a little future forecasting. If you look ahead into your crystal ball, there's been so much dramatic changes we've talked about over the last couple of years. What do you see as probably maybe the next major breakthrough or trend, convergence of AI, drones, and robotics that will further revolutionize industrial operations over the next 2 to 3, 5 years?
Right. So like, again, the world is moving really, really fast. And if you follow the news, you will realize like how much excitement is there, especially among the technologists or geeks like us. And like, it's just amazing what is going on. And the future vision right now is that how can we have completely AI-enabled operations, right? Again, it might not happen in maybe 2 or 3 years, but down the line. And it's hard to kind of put a finger and say whether it will take 10 years or 15 years. But I think almost everybody agrees that eventually systems are going to get more and more autonomous, more and more robotic, and with humanoids coming in a very big way. Right now, there are projections that we will have about 1 billion humanoids in next 10 years, right? So billion humanoids. So, and in the 10 years following that, there will probably be more humanoids than humans, right? So in next like 20 years or so, we will have more humanoids than humans, right? So those are some amazing projections. Again, I would not push too much on the timelines. I would not say whether it will actually take 10 years or 20 years. But the thing is, this is the first time that we are able to imagine a future like that, and in a foreseeable future. It's not like 100 years away. It's definitely like order of like 10, 20, 30 years away, where such things will become possible. Right. So when you think about it, gradually we have to move towards fully AI-enabled operations, where we have all kinds of robotic systems that are able to capture data, understand sites, and then able to not only understand but make decisions, make choices in order to suit our business goals. And then not stop there, but also take those actions that are necessary in order to fulfill those decisions, in order to actuate those decisions or make those decisions a reality, right? So that's the high-level direction that the world is moving in. Of course, it will take time, and we will go layer by layer, and we will initially, of course, the initial layers will be collection of all this data, understanding that data, and providing those insights and helping with those decisions. But gradually, as we have these learning systems in place and they start observing and learning how we are making those decisions, how our sites are operating, they will be able to take over more and more complex jobs and kind of offload those from us. So initially, we will be able to free our workforce from dull, dangerous kind of jobs. But then later on, of course, these systems are just going to keep learning and keep improving and keep freeing us from even harder things to do. Right. So kind of eventual goal is that why should we do all of this? And there should be robots and AI and machines doing all of this for us. And we should be pursuing things that we care about in our lives, pursue things that bring joy and satisfaction to us.
Excellent. Fantastic. And that's a future I think we all can be impressed and happy to see whenever it comes over the horizon. I think that's a perfect place for us to finish up. I really appreciate that you were taking time to talk to our audience today and be able to expand upon the keynote, and look forward to putting that out to our global community. And thank you so much for your time today. And if there's, how do people get in touch with Flytbase moving forward?
So the best way is to reach out to us through our website. So we are on flytbase.com. That is flytbase.com. And you will find all our contact information, everything, whatever we do mentioned on the website. So that's the best way to get in touch with us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nitin. Take care and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Sean. Really loved our conversation. Have a great day.